Okay, so I'm going to do 5.
Oh, what is in the frame? I mean, are my legs?
No, it's just your...
Okay, all right. I don't want anybody to see that I have an ankle monitor on, okay?
Okay,
Yeah. I'm down to 1.
Down to 1? How many do you have before?
3.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Eric, just tell us a little bit, like, where were you born? Where are you from?
I was born in Loveland, Colorado, which is about an hour north of here.
And so tell me a little bit about, I know we're going back, but, a little bit about your childhood. Like, what was your childhood like? Like, say, my childhood was bad, good,
Oh, I think I had a good childhood. My parents divorced when I was 10. I don't think they had a good marriage. I think divorce was the right answer for them. But I will tell you that my parents never used their children as weapons. It was very clear that it was mommy and daddy that didn't get along, and we were never in between the marriage or even in the divorce. So, and to this day, both of my parents will tell you that they still care very deeply for each other. But it was a bad marriage. There's no question about that. But but no, I'm the oldest of my mother's 3 children, but I'm the 7th of my father's 10 children. But my dad had 6 kids, and then my mom has a husband with 4 kids. But so there's 10 of us total, and I'm the 3rd from the baby.
So you were in the Navy?
I was, yeah.
So you joined the Navy, and so...
I joined the Navy late. I was 23 when I went in, and I did that because I needed an education. And my grades were really good my junior and senior year, but they were really bad my freshman and sophomore year. And so I didn't really have the grades for a scholarship, and clearly McDonald's wasn't going to put me through school. So I wanted a good education. I looked at the different branches of the military. The Air Force has great education on that part, right? It's like the best. Wildlife. It's Colorado. We have wildlife. The Air Force has great education on that part, but the Navy, particularly the submarine fleet, has this very broad education base. Right? You are going to learn about everything on the ship. And I also reasoned that I can be 80 years old and drooling all over myself in a wheelchair and still take a surface cruise. I'll never have another chance in my life to go on a submarine. So I joined the Navy, and I specifically said I will be a reactor operator on submarines. It took us a few months to get the orders to do that, because they said, it's needs of the Navy, whatever. And I'm like, well, I'm not signing it unless I'm going to be that guy. My scores were high enough that was something they were able to pull off with some difficulty.
So what were you? You were a what? When you said?
So there are different kinds of nuclear operators. We're called nukes. The guys that live in the back of the boat are called the nukes. And the guys that live forward of the watertight door are called the coners. They're like in the cone of the boat, right? And there's always this rivalry between nukes and coners, because coners think that nukes are crazy, nukes think that coners are stupid, and it turns out that they're both right. So, so I was an electronics technician. As hi guys. Yeah, you a toughie, huh?
Okay, go ahead.
So in nuke land, there are basically 4 kinds of nukes. There are people that manage the water chemistry of the plant and the radiological things. They're usually mechanics that convert to that. Those are called the lab technicians. Then you have mechanics that handle the mechanical things of the power plant. They are machinists made by trade, then nuclear qualified. You have the people that manage the electrical distribution system. Those are the electricians that are nuclear qualified. And then you have the reactor operators themselves who manage the instrumentation and control systems. Those are the reactor operators, the electronics technicians. I was the electronics technician.
So why did you leave the Navy? Did you want to leave? Or did you...
I did 8 years in the Navy, and I spent 6 of those years at sea. So I'm glad that I did it. I would do it all over again if I had the choice, but I think that I did enough time. I will also tell you that I do have a service-connected disability rating from the Navy of 30%.
What was it like being out in a boat for 6 years?
Rusty, that's enough. What was it like being out on a boat for 6 years?
Yeah.
Hopefully it prepared me well for the days that might come, but it can get boring. But at the same time, as a nuke, I'm very busy. We watch movies every night on submarines. Several movies play a night, and I could probably count on both hands the number of movies that I watched in 6 years. It was not very many. That's one of the big distinctions between nukes and coners too, is that coners, the forward part of the ship just isn't as intense as nuke land, and so they have a lot more leisure time. They get to spend a lot more time at sea or in port when we're in port, whereas nukes, we've got to do startups, we've got to do our maintenance. There are things we can't do when the rods are latched and the reactor is critical that we have to do when we shut down. So it was a very, very busy time.
So you leave the Navy. What's the bridge between the time between the Navy and you become sort of an activist, so to speak?
Oh, it's long. It's very long. It was 9 years.
And during those 9 years, what was going on in your life?
Well, I came back to Colorado and went into business with my father, and that didn't work out for us. I should have known that. I never really liked working on cars, and I never really liked working with my dad, and both of those situations did not cure with age. So, but then I went up to Montana, where my mom lives in Miles City, Montana. I became immediately active. I went up there for a break, and I read an editorial in the newspaper from this guy, Butch Krenz, and I'm reading this editorial, and I'm like, oh my God, Mom, who is this idiot, Butch Krenz? And she goes, oh God, that's our mayor. This guy could not possibly be in charge of a municipality. This is ridiculous. He's illiterate, for one thing. So I started kind of becoming involved in the politics there. I ran for city council. I met the requirements by like 2 weeks. I ran a very aggressive campaign against a lot of people that were even homestead families. And I got 44% of the vote, which is really high with 4 candidates. And Mary Quintus beat me out by just a few percent. And I called her Quagmire Quintus. She left early to go back to North Dakota to be with her friends and family while she could still remember them. So I was onto something there. But what I started doing is I started going to city council meetings with a camera. And they tried to not let me do that. And I'm like, no, I'm doing this. And because it was bad, because they were stupid and they were corrupt.
So say I wanted to report council meetings.
Yeah. They wouldn't let me do it. And they also charged me $2 a page for records, and I got an opinion from the Montana AG that the most they could charge would be 25 cents. Then I knew how much it cost to make copies because I was the Xerox guy. So, no, I'm not paying $2 for that copy.
Was there a moment when you decided you wanted to do this kind of? Was there a moment? Did you remember? You said you read that editorial. Was that it?
Oh, yeah. Well, the business with my dad had failed. So, and what happened then is that I owed the parts store, I owed Napa like $7,000. So I worked off that bill every Saturday for 3 years. And when it was all done, I'm like, I need a break, man. I've got to do something different. So I decided to go up and visit my mom. The Napa owner cried when he handed me a check because I had worked more hours than I owed him. And I went up to Montana, and the first night I was there, I read this article in the news. I love reading editorials, right? Because you get to see how really retarded people are. And the 2 most read pages in the newspaper are the editorial page and the obituaries. So remember that if you're in a small town, pay the 25% extra fee to advertise on the obituary page, because that actually covers the entire town. So, which of course I did. But so I bought a camera and I started recording these meetings because they were bad. I had clients that were attorneys, and so I started finding out just how bad things were, really just stupid. And these dysfunctional things. So the first meeting that I went to, there were exactly 2 people in the gallery. Melissa Hartman was there to talk about a new, she's urban development, gal, and they have a new loft apartment that was opening up for affordable housing. And the other person was Lissa Power, the chief of police, and who ended up suing the mayor. And winning because it got her retirement and more, and it was because of my video camera at a council meeting that she got it. But what did you learn from that? What did you learn from this? Bringing your camera. What did you What did I learn from that? Well, for one thing, I learned that nobody likes cameras, right? I mean, just look at how uncomfortable you guys were to find out you were on a live stream. See? So, and I found out that when you're trying to shed light on things, people come at you really hard. They're very adamant. They're very vested in keeping their secrets and guarding their secrets. They're very, very interested in you not seeing what they're doing. And I mean, it was fervent. I mean, I had to literally get AG opinions to be able to get any work done there.
But what would that say? Why did you care so much about that transparency? Like, that's not a normal thing for people to care about. Like, I'm just curious.
I guess nobody's ever asked me the question before, so I don't know. It just seemed like the right thing to do. I mean, this guy was so dumb. And nobody sees it, right? You get to read some of these things in these editorials, and you get a couple of articles in the newspaper, which were in the mayor's pocket, so there wasn't really anything contrary to this. And a picture's worth 1,000 words. So we didn't have streaming internet, right? So it was a camcorder, and then I would go back and edit. I have a great appreciation for what that does to your editing, that being the dog barking, because I probably invested 5 hours of my time for every 1 hour of meeting video to get that encoded and then uploaded to my server, and then I could only handle like 10 viewers at a time, and my bandwidth was done, right? We didn't have YouTube streaming services.
But you know, the question I want to ask is so interesting to me, is that your whole life has been kind of about transparency of one sort or another, and you don't know why you did it?
I guess I don't. I mean, I think I'm a pretty honest person, and generally, and dishonesty really does bother me. It surprises me even to this day how people are corrupt and how they'll go against you. They'll backhand things. I'm a pretty transparent guy, and you know, I was in a profession. Navy nukes have integrity. Right? Honesty is saying, yeah, Mom, I broke the vase when she asks you what happened to the vase, even though you've glued it back together and you didn't think anybody would notice. Integrity is saying, Mom, I broke the vase, but I've tried to put it back together. I hope this works for you. Right? Even when nobody would have noticed, the integrate person fesses up to it. And so there are grades of integrity and honesty, I suppose, but just the things that happen behind the scenes just perpetually stun me. I don't know why I'm so slow on the uptake on this. I guess this is the norm in the world to be dishonest, but it bothered me. The nuke world, we were integrate about things. We reported things when they were bad. We did our jobs with earnest and integrity. We did them accurately. The procedure says do this, you do this, and so I guess I never gave that up.
So what I'm trying to understand, so I understand there's no politics in the nuclear submarine. I mean, that's basically what you're saying.
There's really not. I mean, there is.
You end up being nuked.
There is, but everything on the ship, there's personalities, there are conflicts, but I never really saw people going out of each other's way to stab each other in the back. You know, you have a job to do. Submarine is a very close-knit crew anyway, right? You're not going to leave somebody behind, and you're not going to let them fail either, because one ship, one crew, one screw. A screw is a propeller. You know, we just had a submarine in Indonesia sink with 53 people on it. And I believe we have every indication is that they all died instantly. I don't know what happened, but you are depending on the least and most junior of submariner. You're depending on them for your life at every instance.
So fast forward to Denver. What prompted you to start doing activism in Denver, and what kind of stuff did you do when you started out here?
Activism for me, I guess, started in Miles City, Montana, where we were successful with a lot of things. But then when I came back to Colorado, because my best friend's father was dying and he needed help with his family. And then his father died quickly, but I ended up staying down here. I was involved with a relationship with a woman that turned out to be a con artist. You can look up Alice Bridget Maloney. Yeah, she conned me pretty hard. She nailed me with fake pregnancies, which turned out that she had a tubal ligation 3 years before I met her, and she couldn't even get pregnant. She wanted my, I did backups for people, so I had a lot of sensitive data from lots of people in town. And this is before cloud stuff, but I was very meticulous about the backup integrity and the encryption on them. So she weasels herself in. She spent months doing it, weasels herself in, and lo and behold, She couldn't get into any of the data. She tried for years to get at the data. She ended up taking the identities of my employees, but those are the only 10 people that ended up being directly affected by her. But she it was running scams, and they were all in my name, and I didn't know she was doing it. And things were kind of coming to a head, and I sort of discovered a tip of the iceberg, and I immediately reported it to the district attorney. And then she filed domestic violence charges on me that were bogus. Through this process, that's when I found out that she'd had the tubal ligation. She was trying to get me on a domestic violence so that the foreclosure wouldn't go through on the house because of a new bill that Obama had signed. So my first involvement really with law enforcement, other than Lissa Power up in Miles City, she was a great police chief, by the way. Other than that, my first involvement was this arrest for this domestic violence charge that never happened. And the Greeley police were utterly corrupt about it, even to the point that they took $300 out of my pocket. And the judge saw what was going on here and personally saved my life. She even said she had her clerk. She called me personally. She said, the charges have been dismissed on your case, Mr. Brandt, which means my protection order is vacated. And that the protection order keeping you from your home is vacated. But it's very important that you come down to my office. My clerk has some paperwork for you. Will you promise me that you'll come get that paperwork before you go to your home? Certainly, Your Honor, right? I mean, a judge tells you to lick poop, you lick poop. It doesn't matter what they say, you're going to do it. So I went downtown to pick up this paperwork, and the clerk grabs my hand like this with these flyers, and she said, Michelle believes that your life is in danger. There are no men's shelters. The women's shelters will take you. Go now. And there were brochures on domestic violence and shelters. So I didn't know then what I know now, but I now know that judges see things on those screens. They know things. And she knew that I was in trouble because she knew that Alice had already done this. And I didn't know that. And there are no men's shelters. The women's shelters will take you. And just so you know, men, if the women's shelter will take you, they will put you in a hotel because they're not going to put you in the shelter with those women. And but Alice kept finding me, and they kept moving me. And so here I saw a check and balance. The police were corrupt, and the judge saved my life. She saw it. And so that's the first time that I was like, oh, that's what a check and balance is. So I had some experience with Miles City, knowing that you have to go and inspect. And I knew already that when you're inspecting, they're not going to give it up. Remember, they wanted to charge me $2 a page for copies of records. And I had to go to the AG to get that, 25 cents. Mind you, they're only paying $1.07. Well, they're only paying 1.7 cents.
Did she try to bring against you?
No, they were dismissed within 4 days. By the end of the week, they were dismissed. And so then it was a period of years, some difficult years, because that was obviously pretty rough for me. But I did more learning, more studying, and, just really didn't like what I was seeing the police do to people. And so I started getting bold enough that I would say something as a passenger. And then I became a little bit more bold about saying something if it was me, involving myself. And it just sort of smoldered, I guess, for a while. And then I was homeless in Denver for a few years, and I got housing through the VA programs. And the housing I got was an apartment in Westminster, Colorado. And within days of moving into Westminster, they were just on me like stink on shit, man, and they wouldn't quit. They would literally stake out my apartment. My neighbors would call me to tell me that the cops were standing under my window.
Why?
Because the lady that lived across the hall from me was a germaphobe. I just lived on the street for 3 years. I furnished my apartment out of dumpsters. She had a problem with all this. And so I found out later during an eviction trial, which, by the way, I won, that she had told the Westminster police and all the neighbors and the landlord that I had tried to sexually assault her at the dumpster one night. So I believe Westminster was convinced that they had a sexual predator in the neighborhood. And, of course, you'll never find out all the details, but I wouldn't take their shit. So now they got a guy that won't take their shit. And I just kept slipping through their little drag nets that they kept dropping. And they braided my house several times. It got so bad, as a matter of fact, that I for 4 months, I had yellow police tape on my door, and it was busted off of its hinges. And the landlord, whom I'd beat in the eviction trial, he asked me at one point, he says, so what are your plans with the front door? Like, I don't know that I have any plans for the front door. It obviously doesn't do me any good, right? When I moved in there, the only thing I wanted was a lock and hot water. Well, I paid a huge price for that hot water, let me tell you. The lock, it didn't exist. They just would bust the door down whenever they wanted to. 3 times they went in my house without a warrant. And so I literally, you could just walk into my door. I didn't bother putting the door back on the hinges. Come on, what are you going to do? It's like pointless, right? Besides, plausible deniability.
How did all this affect you? I mean, this
It affected me greatly. It took me 7 years to finally close all my Westminster cases. At 7 years and 2, in fact, I just recently closed the last Westminster case in federal court. One of the things that really bothered me with Westminster is, one, I wouldn't take the shit of the police officers, and that just got me more abuse. So I went to the city hall. I wanted to talk to the mayor about this. What do you do when you have a problem? You go talk to the mayor, right? So I go up there and I say I want to talk to the mayor about this issue, and the lady up there, she invited me to sit down on the chair. I'm sitting there. I have Rusty on my lap. Rusty certainly went everywhere with me. And I'm sitting there just waiting. I had bought a watch that recorded video, so I'm recording this. And all of a sudden I get surrounded by 8 Westminster police officers and removed from the building. There was no foul language. There was no screaming and yelling. There weren't any threats. I just wanted to talk to the mayor. That's it. And I got driven out of the building. And I didn't know all my rights then. I didn't know how to secure my remedies. You're kind of learning this on the fly. And I think this is a great thing about the YouTube community, is that we can learn from each other, right? I started out at nothing, and I had to figure it all out along the way. I've made a lot of mistakes along the way. And I'm like, wow, that didn't work. I went to the city council meeting to try and talk to the city council about police brutality in Westminster. I had a polite speech that was approved by one of my attorneys. He reviewed it for me, and he said, that's a good speech. I was given 5 minutes to speak, and 62 seconds into my polite attorney-approved speech on police brutality in Westminster, the mayor told me I couldn't talk about that. And I said, I would encourage you not to use up my 5 minutes. And I kept talking. And he was gabbling, he was talking over me, so I raised my voice so people could hear it over me. And I was still talking when they drug my happy ass out of the building in handcuffs. That was a 5-year litigation.
Did they charge you?
Oh, absolutely, they charged me. Of course they did.